Appropriately enough, on July 4th, a new nation was born, the Republic of the Philippines. Almost 400 years a Spanish colony, then a territory of the United States, now a sovereign country in its own right. The roots of its history. Here in a remote mountain area, you can have a backward look into Philippine antiquity. These Fuitos, the Aborigines of the Philippines, are among the last vestiges of the Paleolithic age. They are an undersized people, actually a pygmy race, whose domestic implements and weapons have advanced but little beyond the primitive. The stick and stone, the bow and arrow. In the mountains of northern Luzon, largest island of the Philippines, live descendants of the Malays who came from Southeast Asia, starting about 200 BC. They represent a higher level of existence. They are a gentler, more advanced people. Their women highly skilled in the weaving of cloth in colorful and highly intricate patterns. Their artistic instincts are expressed mostly in art form, wood sculpture. The subjects are primitive in design, but the work is meticulously wrought and creative and artistic. This is a woman of the Ifugaos, a mountain people of Malayan descent. These are the fabulous rice terraces of the Ifugaos, a monument to the ingenuity and hardihood of these people, hand-carved and terraced out of the steep mountains. Rice is a basic part of their diet. Preparation for use is a simple process. First, the separation of grain from chaff. Then the pounding and grinding of the grain into meal, a job usually delegated to the younger people of the village. What is the Philippines in terms of modern progress? One answer is in the educational system of the country. In this Philippine schoolroom lies the hope of today and its fulfillment in the future. The traveler, arriving from abroad by plane, catches his first sight of the Philippines on the approach to Manila, its most important city. Manila International Airport serves all carriers flying between the Philippines and the rest of the world. From the airport, you ride along wide, dewy boulevard on your way to the downtown section of the city. You pass some of Manila's finest hotels, the scene of much of the city's social and tourist life. Like the Tiber of Rome and the Seine of Paris, the Pasig River flows through the city, dividing it into two main sections. Together they form Manila, the heart of the Philippines, a great city of 1.5 million people, the cultural, social, and commercial center of the Republic. Manila Cathedral, recently rebuilt, is one of the most imposing structures in the Philippines. The churches in Philippine cities and rural communities symbolize the most enduring influence left here by the Spaniards, Christianity. Before Spanish colonization, the natives were predominantly pagan, but they took readily to the new religion brought to them by the missionaries from Spain. Conversion to Catholicism was quick and widespread throughout the islands. In a remarkably short time, the Philippines became the first, and it remains today, the only Christian nation in the Far East, predominantly Catholic. Historic Manila was originally contained within these ancient walls, now in ruins. This is what is left of Fort Santiago, at various times in its history a Spanish stronghold, a U.S. Army headquarters, and a Japanese prison. Nearby, where he died before a Spanish firing squad, stands the statue of Jose Rizal, national hero of the Philippines. His is one of the most honored names in the Republic, for it was Jose Rizal, Filipino student, teacher, and writer, who sparked the flame of freedom that led to Philippine liberation after 3 centuries of Spanish rule. At the southeast tip of Luzon is Mount Mayon, one of many Philippine volcanoes. It rises majestically 8,000 feet from the flat plain. Here is natural symmetry on the grand scale, the world's most perfect volcanic cone, without flaw in proportion or contour. Now for a sightseer's view of the world's lowest known volcano. Here on a small island in Lake Taal is Taal Volcano, the floor of its crater rising only 5 feet above the level of the lake. What is the Philippines in terms of its natural resources and the roots of its national economy? Throughout the islands there is extensive and varied mineral wealth consisting of gold, silver, iron, copper, chrome, manganese, and other of the so-called base metals. The Philippines was once preeminently a gold mining country. In fact, gold was mined here long before the arrival of the first Europeans. Today, the Philippines is still one of the largest gold producers in the world. For the development of a balanced economy, the Philippines has entered a new era of industrialization. Dams as a source of electric power, as well as for irrigation, are an important part of the government public works program. But with its fertile soil and uniform tropical climate, the Philippines is principally an agricultural country. What you see here is the husking of coconuts. The coconut palm is probably the most useful tree in existence, every part of it having some value. The coconut meat as food, the milk of the nut as a nutritious drink, the palm leaves for fans, baskets, and thatch, the husk for bags and brushes. Everyone has heard of Manila hemp and rope. This is the source of these products, a native plant called abaca, on which the Philippines practically has a world monopoly. After the plants are cut and delivered to the processing plant, the long fibers are stripped from the stalks. Then comes the drying process, from which the fibers emerge exceptionally strong and durable. The coarser fibers are made into rope, twine, and matting, especially for ships and other marine use because of their resistance to the action of salt water. The primary crop of the Philippines is rice, practically all of it for domestic consumption. In these rice paddies, the water buffalo, or carabao, is the main source of power. The harvest is gathered by hand, men and women working side by side in the fields. Much of the threshing is also done by hand. As you see here, it is a simple, rudimentary operation of separating the rice grains from the stalks. The sugar industry of the Philippines represents a heroic story of rehabilitation. During World War II, nearly all of the country's sugar plantations were destroyed. Cane fields, farm animals, and work implements were practically wiped out. Today, the sugar industry is back on its feet. Production is high. Revenue derived from export trade is once again one of the leading sources of national revenue. In addition to this, definite steps have been taken to expand the industrialization of sugar by research and laboratory experiment. Today, the export list includes many byproducts from Philippine sugarcane. In recent years, pineapple has come to be an important crop in the Philippines. As a relatively new facet of Philippine agriculture, it has had the advantage of modern mechanization. Part of the pineapple crop is marketed for home and foreign use in its natural form as fresh fruit. Most of it, however, is delivered to plants to be processed and put up in cans for the export trade. Philippine canneries rank with the best in automatic packing equipment and cleanliness of operation. What you see here is the sliced pineapple division of one of the new packing plants. Other processing operations turn out canned pineapple juice and the solid fruit in various forms. By modern Viscount service, you're now about 1.5 hours flight south of Manila, coming in over Cebu, oldest city in the Philippines. Like Manila, Cebu City was almost totally destroyed during the war, but it has made a remarkable recovery and is today one of the most thriving cities in the Philippines, the hub of commercial activity in the southern part of the country. With a fine harbor and strategically located, Cebu is also a major shipping center, ranking second only to Manila in volume of import-export trade. On the island of Mactan, near Cebu, stands this statue to the first European to set foot in the Philippines in 1521. We know him by the name Ferdinand Magellan. He claimed the islands for Spain and named them in honor of Prince Felipe, who later became King Philip II. More than half of the total land area of the Philippines is covered by dense forests, most of it in the southern islands. In this great spread of standing timber, there are more than 3,000 different species of trees. Out of these, however, only about 200 are cut for commercial use. The country ranks among the most important producers of lumber in the world. It is especially important for its stand of hardwood timber, used largely in home construction and the manufacture of furniture. The best known wood, making up the bulk of lumber exports, is Philippine mahogany. What you see here is a forestry operation in the Bislig Bay area of the island of Mindanao. Practically all of this timber is marked for export to Japan, Europe, and America. The southern island of Mindanao is one of the most exotic spots in the Philippines. Here is where the Moros live, a Muslim people who, through the years, have retained their own Mohammedan faith. Some of them live in houses built on stilts over the water. Others live on their canoes. Water gypsies, who may never set foot on solid earth for months at a time. The departing traveler has found many answers to the question, what is the Philippines? He knows it as a progressive country of some 25 million people, whose racial and cultural roots spread over more than half the world. It is a land of vivid contrasts, a new nation in the world family of nations. The traveler finds here a friendly people, proud of their country and anxious to justify that pride in the eyes of visitors from abroad. This is a land well worth seeing, a people well worth knowing, a land and a people that must be seen and savored to be truly known and understood.